Welcome back to the latest video on my channel. In the past 24 hours, we have received sad news about the passing of some extraordinary talents. In today's episode, we dedicate this time to honor their memories and celebrate the legacies of these remarkable individuals. Before we begin, we kindly ask for your support. If this video or their legacy has touched your life, please give it a like and subscribe the channel as a sign of respect. Thank you. Here are the most recent deaths in national news as reported as my channel in the July 7th of 2025. My channel is where you can find any obituary or publish an obituary in any local community in America and beyond. Jimmy Swaggart, the popular 1980s preacher and televangelist whose career endured through public scandal, died July 1st, 2025 at the age of 90, following a heart attack 2 weeks earlier. Carolyn McCarthy, former U.S. representative from New York, died June 26, 2025, at her home in Fort Myers, Florida, at the age of 81. Rick Hurst, the actor best known for playing Boss Hogg's cousin, Deputy Cletus Hogg on the 1980s hit The Dukes of Hazzard, died June 26, 2025, at the age of 79. Bill Moyers, an acclaimed journalist and award-winning host of several PBS programs, died June 26, 2025, of complications from prostate cancer in New York City. Let's discuss in details. Jimmy Swaggart is a prominent American Pentecostal evangelist, pastor, musician, and televangelist who rose to fame in the 1970s and 1980s as one of the most recognizable figures in American Christian broadcasting. Known for his fiery sermons, passionate preaching style, and musical talent, Swaggart built a global ministry centered in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Over the decades, his career has been marked by tremendous success, dramatic scandal, and a sustained effort at spiritual restoration. Early life and background. Jimmy Lee Swaggart was born on March 15, 1935, in Faraday, Louisiana. He comes from a family with deep roots in gospel music and Pentecostalism. He is a cousin of rock and roll legend Jerry Lee Lewis and country singer Mickey Gilley. Despite their differing paths, Lewis and Gilley pursued secular music, while Swaggart devoted his talents to gospel. Each achieved significant fame. Swaggart's early life was marked by poverty. He began preaching at a young age and married Frances Anderson in 1952 when he was just 17. The couple traveled extensively in their early ministry years, living on meager donations while Swaggart preached in rural churches and tent revivals across the American South. Rise to prominence. In the 1960s, Swaggart's ministry began to grow rapidly. He was ordained by the Assemblies of God in 1961 and began recording gospel music and preaching on the radio. In 1971, he launched his television ministry with the show The Jimmy Swaggart Telecast, which would become one of the most widely distributed religious programs in the world. By the 1980s, his weekly broadcasts were carried on more than 3,000 stations and cable systems, reaching millions of viewers in over 100 countries. Swaggart's style was distinct, a blend of traditional Pentecostal fervor, emotional storytelling, and a strong emphasis on salvation through Jesus Christ. His sermons often included fiery condemnations of sin, secular culture, and moral decay. He also frequently preached against what he saw as corruption within other parts of the Christian community. At the same time, Swaggart was a talented pianist and singer, having released dozens of gospel albums over his career. His musical performances were an integral part of his ministry, often featured in his televised services. The ministry empire. By the mid-1980s, Jimmy Swaggart Ministries had grown into a multi-million-dollar organization. His Baton Rouge campus included the Family Worship Center, a Bible college, now called Jimmy Swaggart Bible College, and a publishing house. He also founded the Sun Life Broadcasting Network, which continues to air his programs globally. His ministry was not just spiritual but also political. Swaggart often spoke out against issues such as abortion, homosexuality, and liberalism, positioning himself and his followers as defenders of traditional Christian values. His influence within the Christian right movement grew alongside fellow televangelists like Jerry Falwell and Pat Robertson. The scandals. Swaggart's career suffered a major blow in 1988 when he was involved in a high-profile scandal involving a prostitute in New Orleans. The story was uncovered by fellow Assemblies of God evangelist Marvin Gorman, whom Swaggart had previously accused of moral improprieties. The confrontation between the two led to a bitter feud and ultimately to Swaggart's exposure. In February 1988, Swaggart tearfully confessed to moral failure in a televised speech, famously saying, "I have sinned against you, my Lord." The Assemblies of God initially suspended him for 3 months and then defrocked him after he refused to undergo a longer period of discipline. The scandal caused widespread damage to his credibility and the broader televangelism movement, which was already reeling from scandals involving other figures such as Jim Bakker. Despite his public repentance, Swaggart was involved in another similar scandal in 1991 when he was again caught with a prostitute. Aftermath and continued ministry. Following the scandals, Swaggart's influence and audience declined significantly. His Bible college enrollment dropped, many stations stopped broadcasting his program, and his income plummeted. However, Swaggart continued preaching and rebuilding his ministry with a smaller, more devoted audience. By the early 2000s, Swaggart had shifted his focus back to core Pentecostal beliefs and Bible-based teaching. He rebranded his media outreach through the Sun Life Broadcasting Network, SBN, which features live church services, sermons, music programs, and Bible studies. SBN is available on satellite, cable, and streaming platforms, with programming still produced at the Family Worship Center in Baton Rouge. Swaggart's son, Donnie Swaggart, and grandson, Gabriel Swaggart, now play significant roles in the ministry. Together they have helped to sustain the family legacy and appeal to younger generations of Pentecostal believers. Legacy and impact. Jimmy Swaggart's legacy is complex. On one hand, he is recognized as a pioneering figure in televangelism and Pentecostal ministry. His early work helped shape the way Christian broadcasting developed in the late 20th century. His musical contributions to gospel music, particularly piano-based Southern gospel, remain appreciated by fans and musicians alike. On the other hand, his scandals seriously undermined his moral authority and dealt a lasting blow to the credibility of televangelism as a whole. Critics have accused him of hypocrisy, financial impropriety, and manipulative preaching tactics. Yet despite these controversies, he retains a loyal following and continues to preach weekly to both local and global audiences. Swaggart's life story illustrates the high visibility and vulnerability of public religious figures, particularly within American evangelicalism. His rise, fall, and partial rehabilitation mirror broader themes within the Christian world: redemption, accountability, and the human struggle between sin and grace. Conclusion. Jimmy Swaggart remains a prominent, if polarizing, figure in modern Christian history. He helped define the televangelism era and brought Pentecostal preaching into millions of homes around the world. While his ministry has never fully recovered its former reach, Swaggart's enduring presence and continued preaching testify to both his resilience and his unshaken belief in his calling. Whether viewed as a fallen prophet or a flawed but redeemed servant of God, Jimmy Swaggart's story is one of immense influence, enduring controversy, and the relentless pursuit of grace. Carolyn McCarthy, January 5, 1944, June 26, 2025, was an American nurse-turned-congresswoman whose life cradled tragedy, resilience, and an unyielding quest for gun control reform. Serving 9 terms as U.S. Representative for New York's 4th District, 1997-2015, she became known as one of Congress's most passionate advocates for stricter firearms legislation. Early life and nursing career. Born Carolyn Cook in Brooklyn and raised from age 8 in Mineola, Long Island, she entered Glen Cove Nursing School, inspired by a nurse who cared for her late boyfriend in high school. For 3 decades, McCarthy worked as a practical nurse, caring for terminal patients with compassion and dedication, experiences that shaped her later advocacy. The 1993 Lear massacre and turned to activism. On December 7, 1993, gunman Colin Ferguson opened fire on a Long Island Railroad train, killing 6 and injuring 19, including McCarthy's husband Dennis, who was killed, and her son Kevin, who suffered serious injuries. The tragedy propelled McCarthy into activism. She lobbied for President Clinton's 1994 crime bill, which included the federal assault weapons ban and restrictions on high-capacity magazines. Entering politics and congressional election. When her incumbent congressman, Republican Dan Friesa, voted to repeal the assault weapons ban, McCarthy still registered a Republican decided to challenge him. She entered the 1996 race as a Democrat and won with over 57% of the vote. Her campaign emerged from the grief of personal loss and a fierce determination to prevent future gun violence. Legislative record. Gun control leadership. Nicknamed the Gun Lady on Capitol Hill, McCarthy remained one of Congress's most persistent proponents of gun reforms. She introduced bills requiring background checks for all firearms sales, proposed bans on high-capacity magazines, and advocated for child-safe gun triggers. She emerged as a key voice following mass shootings at Columbine, 1999, Virginia Tech, 2007, and Sandy Hook, 2012. Background check. Success. While facing strong opposition from the NRA, she celebrated the passage of strengthened background check laws, including a notable expansion in 2008 during President George W. Bush's administration. Broader policy focus. Known for her center-left alignment, McCarthy served on the Education and Workforce Committee and the Financial Services Committee. She co-sponsored the Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Act and supported the Gabriella Miller Kids First Research Act, as well as maternal and community health initiatives. Personal traits and advocacy style. True to her roots as a nurse, McCarthy approached legislation with empathy and determination. She often wept during debates, once during a late-night 1999 hearing on the gun show loophole, and spoke candidly about the emotional toll of gun violence. McCarthy's authenticity earned her deep respect, even among political opponents. Health challenges and retirement. In June 2013, McCarthy announced her diagnosis with lung cancer, attributing it to decades as a heavy smoker and asbestos exposure from her youth. She filed lawsuits against asbestos manufacturers and, after undergoing treatment, announced in January 2014 that she would retire at the end of her term in 2015. Recognitions and later years. Presidential Citizens Medal, 2025. In January, President Biden awarded her this prestigious honor for her tireless service and advocacy. The medal was accepted by her granddaughter, Grace. Legacy honored. New York Governor Kathy Hochul ordered half-staff flags on state buildings in tribute to her lifelong service. Final years in Florida. After retiring, McCarthy relocated to Fort Myers, Florida, where she remained active in her community and garden until her death on June 26, 2025, at age 81. Legacy and impact. Carolyn McCarthy's life exemplifies how personal tragedy can spark transformative public service. From the Lear platform, she rose to national prominence, challenging gun violence head-on and redefining the role of citizen legislators. Though many of her proposals did not pass, her persistent efforts led to expanded background checks and inspired a generation of advocates. She believed her presence alone mattered. As she once said, "A voice there, my voice added, made a difference." McCarthy leaves behind her son Kevin, 2 grandchildren, Dennis and Grace, and a legacy of compassion, resilience, and courage. Her story remains a powerful reminder of the impact one determined individual can have in the fight for safer communities. Timeline at a glance. Year milestone. 1944, born in Brooklyn. 1960s-90s, worked as a practical nurse. 1993, husband killed and son injured in Lear shooting. 1994, lobbied for federal assault weapons ban. 1996, elected to Congress, begins 9-term career. 1997-2015. Champion of gun control, education, and financial reform. 2013, diagnosed with lung cancer. 2014, announced retirement. 2025, awarded Presidential Citizens Medal, passed away June 26. Richard Rick Douglas Hurst was born on January 1st, 1946, in Houston, Texas. Growing up in a vibrant Southern environment, he developed a passion for performance early on. He pursued higher education at Tulane University, earning a bachelor's degree in psychology and theater in 1968, and later secured a Master of Fine Arts in acting from Temple University in 1970. Personal life. In 1969, Hurst married acting coach Candace Kaniecki. The couple welcomed their son, Ryan Hurst, in 1976, who would go on to star in Sons of Anarchy and The Walking Dead. They divorced in 1979. He later married Catherine Shelley Weir in 1981 and had another son, Colin, before their divorce in 1991. Known in Hollywood as a kind-hearted and supportive father, many credit Rick's example with shaping Ryan's own successful acting journey. Breakthrough in television, 1970s. Rick began his career with small but memorable roles. His TV debut was in The Doris Day Show, 1971, where he played a mechanic. Throughout the early 70s, he appeared on Sanford and Son, The Partridge Family, Gunsmoke, Happy Days, Little House on the Prairie, and Mates H, building a strong reputation as a versatile character actor. Iconic role, Deputy Cletus Hogg. In 1979, Rick landed the role that would define his career, Deputy Cletus Hogg, on the Dukes of Hazzard. With his signature overalls, goofy demeanor, and endearing Southern twang, he became a beloved fixture of the show, appearing in 55 episodes between 1979 and 1982. His comedic timing and easygoing charm made him memorable alongside Bo, Luke, Boss Hogg, and Roscoe. He also reprised the role in TV reunion films Reunion, 1997, and Hazard in Hollywood, 2000. Expanded career, TV and film appearances. Beyond Hazard, Rick maintained a busy career into the 80s and 90s. He guest starred on Amanda's alongside B. Arthur, 1983, as well as hits like Murder, She Wrote, 227, The Wonder Years, Family Matters, Melrose Place, The Golden Girls, Alice, Mama's Family, and Curb Your Enthusiasm. His film roles included Earth Girls Are Easy, 1988, The Karate Kid Part 3, 1989, Steel Magnolias, 1989, In the Line of Fire, 1993, Anywhere But Here, 1999, and the indie horror comedy Return of the Killer Shrews, 2012. He even graced regional theater stages, including the Burt Reynolds Dinner Theater, and remained active in the industry into his 70s. His last screen appearance was in the 2016 TV short Be My Guest, capping a diversified career spanning over 4 decades. Legacy and tributes. Rick passed away in Los Angeles on June 26, 2025, at the age of 79 unexpectedly, and just days before a planned fan appearance at Cooter's Place in Tennessee. Colleague Ben Jones, Cooter, called him a professional comedian with a heart as big as Texas, praising his warmth, generosity, and unwavering humor. John Schneider, Bo Duke, remembered him as a remarkable force for humanity, sanity, and comedy. Fans in the Dukes community continue to celebrate his memory, remarking on his kind spirit and enduring presence. The show and Rick's performance still brings smiles around the world. Family and personal impact. Rick is survived by his sons Ryan, an Emmy-nominated actor, and Colin. As a proud father, Rick's passion for the craft and his generous, stable influence helped shape Ryan's noteworthy path. He leaves behind not only a body of work across TV and film, but also a legacy of kindness and community. Bill Moyers, a voice of conscience in American media. Bill Moyers, born Billy Don Moyers on June 5, 1934, in Hugo, Oklahoma, is an acclaimed American journalist, political commentator, and former White House press secretary. Known for his thoughtful and principled approach to journalism, Moyers has spent more than half a century examining American politics, culture, and public life through television, books, and public speaking. His career reflects a deep commitment to democracy, social justice, and the public interest. Early life and education. Moyers was raised in Marshall, Texas, in a devout Southern Baptist family. His upbringing in a working-class environment strongly influenced his ethical compass and interest in religion and morality. He started his career in journalism as a teenager, working at a local radio station in Marshall. He attended the University of Texas at Austin, where he majored in journalism and earned his bachelor's degree in 1956. During college, he interned for then-Senate Majority Leader Lyndon B. Johnson. Afterward, he studied theology at Southwestern Baptist Theological Seminary in Fort Worth, earning a Master of Divinity degree. Though he never became a pastor, the experience gave him a lifelong interest in the moral dimensions of public life. Early political career. Moyers' relationship with Lyndon B. Johnson led him to Washington, where he quickly rose through the political ranks. When Johnson became president following John F. Kennedy's assassination in 1963, Moyers was appointed special assistant to the president. He became Johnson's White House press secretary from 1965 to 1967, during the height of the Vietnam War and the Civil Rights Movement. Journalism career. Moyers joined the Public Broadcasting Service, PBS, in the early 1970s and began producing programs that reflected his wide-ranging intellectual interests. He hosted or produced many acclaimed series, including Bill Moyers' Journal, Now with Bill Moyers, and Moyers and Company. His reporting style emphasized in-depth analysis, moral inquiry, and a refusal to reduce complex issues to sound bites. His programs often explored issues such as poverty, inequality, race, religion, media ethics, and American democracy. Notable documentaries include The Power of Myth, 1988, a series of interviews with mythologist Joseph Campbell, which brought philosophical storytelling to mainstream audiences. He also created Genesis, a living conversation, healing in the mind, and faith and reason, among others. Style and philosophy. What set Moyers apart was his rare combination of empathy, intellectual curiosity, and journalistic integrity. Unlike many contemporaries, he approached subjects with deep moral concern, often drawing on his theological background. He viewed journalism not just as a means of informing the public, but as a moral calling to speak truth to power. Moyers was also known for his calm, deliberate interview style. He treated his guests, whether poets, scholars, activists, or politicians, with respect and allowed them space to speak thoughtfully. His interviews were rarely combative, but always probing. Legacy and recognition. Over his long career, Bill Moyers received more than 30 Emmy Awards, 9 Peabody Awards, and honorary degrees from numerous universities. In 2006, he was inducted into the Television Hall of Fame. His work has been praised for elevating public discourse and defending the role of independent journalism in a democratic society. Moyers has also authored and edited several books, including Listening to America, A World of Ideas, Moyers on Democracy, and The Language of Life, A Festival of Poets. His writing, like his broadcasts, reflects a commitment to reflective, in-depth exploration of complex issues. Personal life. Bill Moyers has been married to Judith Suzanne Davidson since 1954. Judith, a producer and writer in her own right, collaborated with Moyers on several projects. They have 3 children, one of whom, Joe,